2009, extraordinarily powerful eruptions occur in the Sun's atmosphere. Noticing the situation, Dr. Helmsley travels to India to discuss the matter and meets with astrophysicist Satnam. The two of them go together to a copper mine. They get into an elevator that takes them 3,300 meters underground. In the laboratory, Satnam shows Helmsley that these solar flares are the largest in history and have started to heat the Earth's core. He proves this by opening a tank filled with boiling underground water. Fearing that a global catastrophe is approaching, Helmsley quickly returns to America. He interrupts an ongoing reception and informs White House Chief of Staff Ejiofor about the situation. 6 months later, in 2010, US President Wilson announces at the G8 summit that the end of the world is approaching. This information is kept secret from the public. However, the most powerful people in the world begin to make secret plans. In the Tibetan Valley, massive ark ships are built to save selected wealthy and important individuals. However, the public is told that only a dam is being constructed there. Those who are unable to work are removed from the area. Only people with certain skills are among those allowed to stay. A year later, tickets to board the ark ships begin to be sold to elite individuals for a full €1 billion each. At the Louvre Museum, President Wilson's daughter Laura meets with the museum director. The goal is to replace the Mona Lisa painting with a fake and protect it from fanatics. By the year 2012, the public still does not know the truth. However, news reports start to discuss the Mayan calendar and people who believe the end of the world is near. Some groups even commit mass suicide. Meanwhile, large cracks appear in the streets of California, but no one takes it seriously. It is thought to be just a minor earthquake. At the harbor, a passenger ship sinking slightly into the water makes the passengers uneasy. That evening, the director of the Louvre calls Laura and tells her that they were lied to about the reason for moving the artworks. He says he will reveal the truth at a press conference the next day. But before he can hang up the phone, his car suddenly explodes and the director dies. Meanwhile, at the White House, Helmsley and Ejiofor inform President Wilson that they made a mistake in their calculations and that the end of the world will come much sooner than expected. At that moment, Laura enters and questions why the institution she works for is a deception. Wilson cannot hide the truth and is forced to tell his daughter everything. Meanwhile, Jackson takes his children and goes on vacation to Yellowstone National Park. On the way, they see countless helicopters and notice that the lake area is cordoned off with warning signs prohibiting entry. Ignoring the warnings, they climb over the fence and proceed further. When they arrive at the lake, they are shocked to see that the water has completely dried up and there are dead animals around. There is a strange man named Charlie secretly watching them from the forest. After a while, military units arrive and take the family to the base. Helmsley tells Jackson that they are investigating the events at the lake, that the area is dangerous, and that the children must be removed from there immediately. After the family leaves, Helmsley calls Satnam. Satnam reports that he had to shut down the mine and that similar data is coming in from other countries as well. The Earth's crust has now become unstable. Evacuations need to begin immediately. Jackson and his children go to the campsite, but there they are cornered by Charlie. Charlie asks what the scientists are saying and laughs at the answer. In the evening, Jackson notices that Charlie is broadcasting from his trailer and listens to his radio. The broadcast is talking about the impending apocalypse. Jackson becomes curious and goes to Charlie to learn more details. Charlie shows him a funny animation explaining the Mayan prophecy. When Jackson says that such a big secret couldn't be kept from the public, Charlie explains. He says that everyone who tried to tell the truth to the public has died and proves it with a pile of newspaper clippings. Jackson realizes that an old professor he used to work with died 2 months ago. Charlie, on the other hand, says that the professor sent him a map showing the location of the government's secret ships. Jackson finds this ridiculous and returns to his tent. The next morning, the earthquakes in California intensify and a massive fissure splits a supermarket in two. Fortunately, no one is injured. However, Jackson's ex-wife Kate calls him in a panic and shouts, "Bring the kids home immediately!" She yells. Meanwhile, Ejiofor informs President Wilson that only 4 ark ships have been completed, so it's not possible to save enough people. At an emergency meeting attended by all heads of state, Helmsley presents the report stating that they have only 2 or 3 days left. Following this, President Wilson announces that the evacuation plan has been initiated. After dropping the kids off with Kate, Jackson receives a call from his boss, the Russian billionaire Karpov. Karpov is secretly involved in the salvation plan and asks Jackson to take his twin sons to the airport. One of the children says to Jackson, "You're going to die soon, but I'm going to get on a big ship and be saved." Just then, another tremor occurs. Jackson starts to think that what Charlie said might actually be true. He immediately rents a plane and goes back to get his family. At that moment, California is shaken by an even bigger earthquake. Houses start to collapse. Jackson arrives just in time. He picks up his children, Katie, and her new boyfriend Gordon in the car. As the buildings around them collapse, the roads also begin to split open. Jackson drives the car almost recklessly, escaping from pits and debris. As people try to escape, the traffic becomes completely jammed. Jackson finds a solution by driving through people's yards and between trees. The vehicle narrowly avoids falling by flying off a platform that has broken away from the ground. In the city center, bridges and skyscrapers collapse, and thousands of people lose their lives. After a long escape, the group reaches the airport, only to realize that the pilot is dead. Gordon has only taken a few flying lessons, but he has no real experience. Nevertheless, he panics, takes control, and manages to get the plane off the ground, just before the airport is completely destroyed. Soon after, Los Angeles is wiped off the map. Coastal cities are submerged under ocean waters. After a while, the family returns to Yellowstone, hoping to find Charlie's map. But Charlie is not in the trailer. He has climbed to the top of a mountain to await the apocalypse. Jackson drives the trailer up the mountain and finds him. At that moment, thousands of birds begin to fly in panic across the sky. The hills collapse and the ground starts to split open. While Jackson and his family quickly drive away, Charlie stays behind and continues broadcasting on his radio. Minutes later, a volcano erupts, lava spews out, and the entire area is completely destroyed. Lava rocks begin to rain down from the sky. Charlie dies, and one of the rocks crashes into the back of the RV. Fortunately, by driving fast, Jackson manages to jump over the massive crack in the ground and reaches the airport just in time. However, he still needs to get the map from the RV. While he's delayed, the ground breaks apart and the RV falls into the abyss. Thinking Jackson is dead, Gordon starts preparing the plane for takeoff. Just then, Jackson miraculously climbs out of the RV and, grabbing Kate's hand, is saved at the last moment. A few seconds after reaching safety, the plane takes off and escapes before the clouds of lava can reach them. When Jackson looks at the map, he realizes they need to go to China. For this, they need a much longer range plane. That evening, Anheuser and Helmsley watch reports of disasters happening all around the world. Famous landmarks have been destroyed, millions of people have died, and hope is almost completely lost. Helmsley says that the public now deserves to know the truth, but Anheuser objects to this. He argues that the truth cannot be revealed before the chosen ones board the Ark ships. He says it's necessary for survival. After a while, Anheuser and Helmsley inform President Wilson that it's time to leave. However, Wilson decides not to abandon his people and says he will die with them. Anheuser takes command, ignores Helmsley's objections, and takes off in the plane with Em and Laura. On the plane, Laura receives a farewell call from her father. Then Wilson appears on television and finally reveals the truth to the world. Meanwhile, Jackson and his family arrive at Las Vegas airport. However, all flights there have been cancelled. Coincidentally, Karpov is there as well. He is accompanied by his twin sons, his girlfriend Tamara, and her little dog. Jackson begs Karpov to take his family too, but Karpov ignores him. Fortunately, pilot Sasha finds a usable plane. However, he needs a co-pilot. Jackson's family immediately suggests Gordon. Karpov agrees, and together they all run to board a giant cargo plane. Even though air traffic control doesn't give them permission, Sasha and Gordon work together and manage to take off. While maneuvering between collapsing buildings, they only lightly hit the top of a skyscraper and escape, heading toward China. Shortly after, as they fly over Hawaii, they are horrified to see that the island is completely covered in lava and almost no buildings remain. Meanwhile, Nima, a Buddhist monk living in Tibet, receives a letter from his brother, who works on the Ark ships. His brother has told him the truth. Nima asks his master for permission and sets out from the mountain to pick up his grandfather and grandmother. In Washington, D.C., the volcanic ash falling from the sky just won't stop. President Wilson opens the doors of the White House to people seeking shelter. At that moment, while a little girl is searching for her father, Wilson decides to help and calls out to the medical personnel outside. But just then, a massive earthquake occurs and the Washington Monument collapses. At the same time, while people are praying in a special ceremony at the Vatican, it too is shaken by a violent earthquake. Enormous structures collapse and millions of people lose their lives. Shortly after, reports come in stating that massive tsunami waves have formed all around the world. A passenger ship in the middle of the sea capsizes under the giant waves. Realizing they cannot escape, the crew resigns themselves to their fate. In Washington, D.C., after a while, Wilson wakes up unconscious among ash-covered corpses. But immediately after, a tsunami approaching from the horizon completely engulfs the city. President Wilson dies along with everyone else who survived up to that point. Meanwhile, Helmsley learns that the base where the Ark ships are located will also be submerged in about 6 hours. The Earth's crust has shifted significantly and the magnetic poles have reversed. Now, the North Pole is in the region where Wisconsin is located. When we return to Jackson and his family, pilot Sasha explains that they are out of fuel and must make an emergency landing. As they begin their descent, they hope to see the sea, but there is no ocean left anywhere. Due to the shifting of the continents, the plane has reached a place near the Himalayas, the region where the Ark ships were built. The plane completely loses its engines and begins to descend. Amid violent turbulence, Sasha tells everyone to get into the vehicles and jump out from the cargo hold. Gordon helps Sasha at first, but the pilot tells him, "Take your family and go." The family gets into the car and lands safely on the ground thanks to the softness of the snow. However, all the other vehicles fall and are destroyed. Sasha manages to land the plane, but it skids across the ice. Then it falls off a cliff and he dies in a massive explosion. At that moment, Chinese helicopters are transporting the animals taken to the Arks. The crew notices the families and descends, but they only accept those who have tickets. Karpov goes with his twin sons and his dog, but leaves Tamara behind, because he found out that she cheated on him with the pilot Sasha. The group left behind continues to walk through the coal mountains. After a while, they see a truck passing by. Jackson picks up a rock to stop the truck and throws it at the vehicle with all his strength. It turns out that the truck driver is Nima. Nima agrees to take the group into his vehicle. Meanwhile, Helmsley's team also arrives in the area. There they realize that many important figures, such as the Queen and her dogs, are also present. In total, only 4 Ark ships have been completed. However, the third one has been damaged due to earthquakes. Because of this, many people like Karpov still haven't been able to board the ship. Helmsley and Laura are disgusted to see that among the important scientists, there are also useless rich people. The workers who built the ship, on the other hand, were not given any tickets at all. When Helmsley enters his own cabin, he realizes there is enough space for 10 people, but the seats have been left empty for the sake of luxury. At that moment, Satnam calls, his voice trembling. He says that the plane that was supposed to come for him never arrived. A tsunami is approaching the town where he lives. He says goodbye to Helmsley and dies together with his family. Panicking, Helmsley immediately checks the new data and announces that there is only half an hour left before the giant wave reaches the Arks. Outside, Nima brings the group to the base with the truck, but his brother Tenzin doesn't want to let anyone in except his own family. Kate begs him to at least save the children. At that moment, their grandmother scolds Tenzin and tells him he must let everyone in. Tenzin is finally convinced and lets them all inside. The ships are preparing for departure, but since the workers couldn't repair the damaged Ark, the passengers of that ship are left behind. An enraged Karpov punches the soldier at the door and tries to force his way inside. The crowd immediately rushes in after him, but as the ship starts to move away from the platform, many people fall and die while trying to jump on. Amidst this chaos, Tenzin leads the group to the same ship via an alternative route. Tamara realizes her dog is with Karpov's children and whistles. The dog crosses a narrow bridge and reaches its owner at the last moment. Tamara bids farewell to Karpov by giving him the middle finger. Tenzin opens a secret passage for the group to enter the Ark. Meanwhile, Helmsley can't take it anymore as he watches people falling from the platform. He contacts all the world leaders and asks for the doors to be opened. However, Anheuser objects, reminding everyone that there are only 15 minutes left before the wave hits. Helmsley doesn't give up. He reminds them that they've lost their humanity and brings up Satnam's death. Laura also says that if Wilson were here, he would open the doors, and these words convince the leaders, so they allow the doors to be opened. However, since Jackson and his family sneaked onto the ship, they get stuck between the elevator mechanisms. When the doors open, the system starts to operate. Tenzin and Gordon lose their balance and fall to the side. The giant rotating gears trap Tenzin's leg. Jackson immediately rushes to help and manages to pull Tenzin up. But Gordon slips and falls between the giant gears, getting crushed to death. Just as Jackson is about to be crushed as well, the steel cable they're holding onto gets caught between the gears and stops the mechanism. The door can't open fully, but even this much is enough for the crowd to get inside. There are only 4 minutes left until the wave hits. As the tsunami rapidly engulfs the mountains, in the distance, Nima's master rings the temple bell one last time and then loses his life. The doors begin to close, but Karpov is still outside. At the last moment, he throws his children into the ship and falls down himself, dying. Because of the cable that got stuck earlier, the door can't close completely. This prevents the ship from taking off. When the technical team checks the cameras, they notice Jackson's group. Helmsley immediately runs over there. At that moment, the giant tsunami hits the base and wipes out all the workers left outside. Water quickly starts flooding in through the open door. While people are in a panic, the security system automatically closes the compartments one by one. The room where Jackson and his team are is also locked. The water rises and everyone gets separated from each other. The situation gets even worse. The wave drags a giant plane and crashes it into the back. The ship's supports break. It crashes uncontrollably into the other ships. They need to start the engine and get away. But since the door is left open, this isn't possible. The tsunami drags the ship toward Mount Everest. A collision is just a matter of moments. Helmsley finds Jackson's daughter and dog. Then, using the communication system on the wall, he contacts Jackson. He explains to him how to disable the elevator mechanism and how dangerous this is. Without hesitation, Jackson dives into the waves. While Kate tends to Tenzin's wound, their son Noah follows after his father. He lights up the underwater area with his flashlight. This way, Jackson can use both of his hands. After a tough struggle, Jackson manages to pull the cable. Just before the bottom of the ship crashes into the rocks, the door finally closes and the technicians start the engine. However, the ship is moving too fast. There isn't enough time to change direction. The Ark begins to crash into the mountain and huge rocks fall onto it. The windows crack. Luckily, the reverse thrust system kicks in and the ship pulls away from the mountain at the last moment. Everyone shouts with joy. Jackson reunites with his family. After a while, the calendar starts counting as after the flood. On the 27th day of the first month, Helmsley and Laura kiss for the first time. At that moment, the captain announces that the sky has finally cleared. After months, people see the sun again. While all the passengers on the 3 arks breathe in the fresh air, Helmsley checks the satellite reports. The waters have begun to recede and the African continent has risen to the surface. The arks set their course there. Humanity sets out for Africa to make a new beginning.